to identify pairs of angles, and we've already talked about this. We've already written the definitions for these. Okay, we're going to talk about adjacent angles, complementary, supplementary, and vertical angles, and linear pairs. Okay, and then we're going to use those, kind of combine it with algebra to come up with solutions to missing angle measures. Okay, so the first kind of angle we're going to talk about is adjacent angles. Anybody remember what those are?
Angle.
TJ? Remember what adjacent angles are?
Aren't they like opposite? Like they're like opposite?
No, those are vertical angles. That would be vertical angles. Hold on one second. Okay, well, adjacent angles are two angles that share a side, that share the middle angle. Okay, the official definition is two angles in the same plane with a common vertex and a common side, but no common interior point. So it's sort of like two houses that share the middle wall, but they don't share any rooms the same, so there's no interior that's common, but they do share that one line. Okay, so the two outside rays are their own, but they share that inside ray. They're adjacent, they're right next to each other. Okay? And a kind of adjacent angle is a linear pair. Does anybody know what makes a linear pair unique? Like what makes it different than any other adjacent angle?
Both the angles equal to 180.
Exactly. They're adjacent angles whose sum is 180. And the reason they're called linear pairs is because their outside rays here always make a line. To equal 180, they always have to equal a line. Okay? Nick, why don't you get some hard math? Get your notes out. Okay? So a linear pair is just adjacent angles that equal 180. All right? Complementary angles, we know this, right? They equal 90. I'm sorry? Okay? So these two angles together are going to equal 90 degrees. And one thing I noticed you have to be careful because unless there's that mark is there, you can't be positive it's 90 degrees. Like, I don't know if I could tell just by looking if it was 89 and a half or 90. So you always depend on that little symbol to show right angles. All right, how about supplementary angles? What are they equal? The sum equals
180.
Good, 180. Two angles whose sum is 180. All right, so what's the most famous pair of supplementary angles? What are they called?
Linear pair.
A linear pair, right. They're like the Brad and Angelina of supplementary angles. They're the most famous. Yes?
But if adjacent angles, like, if those equal 180, then the supplementary angle?
Well, not all adjacent angles equal 180. Only linear pairs equal 180. Okay? Like there can be like these two adjacent angles, that 1 and 2 here don't equal 180, right? Because they wouldn't make a straight line. Okay, so adjacent angles don't necessarily aren't necessarily equal to anything. All right. But do supplementary and complementary angles have to be adjacent? No, they do not. All right, and lastly, who remembers what vertical angles are? CJ?
The ones that are like opposite each other or the same.
Formed by two straight lines intersecting, and they're opposite. They only share a vertex. Okay? Non-adjacent, so the only thing they share is a vertex. They don't share a side. Formed by two intersecting lines. Or vertical angles. Right? And I think on the when we wrote our definitions the other day, they showed one of the non-examples, or one of the counter-examples. We had two angles that shared a vertex, but why aren't those vertical? Right, they share a vertex, but they're not formed by two straight lines. So they're not necessarily, because vertical angles are congruent, and so these are not necessarily congruent. They're not vertical angles. All right. So take a second. Let's just practice. I want you to list all the pairs of adjacent angles, all the pairs of supplementary angles, and all the pairs of vertical angles. 2 and 4? Are those adjacent? Absolutely. 2 and 4.
Angle 2 and 4.
Angle 2 and 4. So we got 1 and 2, 2 and 4, 3 and 4. What else? Matt? What else? 1 and 3. Okay. Any others? We got 6 and 8, 5 and 6, 5 and 7. Yeah. Good. Is that it? 8. Yeah, that's it. All right, good. Supplementary angles. Monica. One and 2. Okay. 3 and 4. 5 and 7. 6, 8. Good. Any others? Why not angle 1 and 3? I'm sorry, Michael? Yeah, it doesn't make a straight line here, right? So these two, this makes more than 180. Okay? Good. And vertical. Angle 3 and 2 vertical angles?
Yes,
Why
bring
not?
up on YouTube.
Right there. Vertical angles are formed by what? Two straight lines. Is the first set of angles up there formed by two straight lines? No. So none of those are vertical.
Well,
So it would just be 5 and
8.
8. Good.
6 and 7.
Good. Good.
Screwing up.
Okay. You're fine. All right. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. Now let's use those relationships to solve some equations. All right. What kind of angles are these? Supplementary because they are a linear pair. They're a linear pair. So they're supplementary. All right. So what can we set them equal to? How can I write an equation for that? Or 25. Good, exactly. Okay? And and then we solve it. So take a second and solve that equation. Okay? How about the next set? How can I set up an equation to solve for that one? Right. What kind of angles are these? Vertical. They're vertical angles. So they are equal to each other. Vertical angles are equal. So I can set them up. 12m minus 14 equals 70. And then solve. Okay? So I add 14 to both sides, and that gives me 12m equals 84. And divide by 12. And I get m is equal to 7. Okay? And again, make sure you pay attention to what they're asking for. Like if they ask for the value of this angle or the measure of this angle, you'd have to plug it in. Okay? Although if they ask for the value of that angle, what would you say it is? 70. You're right. You wouldn't have to even do any math. All right. Now let's apply. Do some application. We got a sprinkler here. Yeah. It says a sprinkler swings back and forth between A and B. It's in such a way that angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. No, sorry. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, these two. And angle 1 and 3 are complementary, and 2 and 4 are complementary. Okay? See if you can find they gave you the measure of angle 1 is 47.5. Find angles 2, 3, and 4. Okay?